Everybody is always talking about buying back the block, owning land. Let's rebuild Black Wall Street. Let's try to make another Seneca Village again. Let's get all this black wealth into one place and build the Mecca. Let's make Wakanda real. Yet, when people attempt to do it in real life, y'all start capping. Like, y'all go back on everything y'all said. Ari has gifted Moneybagg Yo 28.8 acres of land for his birthday, and y'all are acting like it's... What? Y'all are acting like this is something she should be ashamed of. Y'all are acting like she's silly because she bought land for a man that she's not married to nor has a child to. Y'all are acting like this is pick-me behave. First of all, sweeties, a pick-me could never. A pick-me could never. But also, let's really break this down, right? Let's really discuss this, right? Okay. So, y'all want us to buy back the land. Y'all want us to invest in property. Every single time I log on to Instagram, Twitter, even YouTube, it's somebody black talking about why we need to own more real estate, why we need to buy more land, why more black people should look into being homesteaders. Let's, move out of the cities and let's buy up our farmland. Yet, when someone tries to do it in real life, you really try to shame them. Ooh, there is a siren. That siren is loud. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm so sorry about the siren. Please excuse it. But y'all really try to shame them. Let me tell y'all something. We need to be celebrating and clapping for any person, for any single person who is black that is buying up land, whether it be for themselves or to develop entire communities. I made a video recently, not really that recently, but I made a video before on my channel. And I called it The Great Return. If you're not familiar with this story, there is a group of, I believe it's 7 to 10 families who have bought a town in Georgia. Basically, the town was abandoned. It's actually quite a long story, but long story short, there was land for sale. The land is the equivalent of a small town. And when I say small, think about previously, before it became like nowhere's land, there were about 5,000 to 7,000 people living in that town. That's a lot of people. Even 1,000 people, if you think about it, is a lot of people kind of living independently within their own spaces. These black folks put their money together, pooled their money together, and over the course of about 2.5 to 3 years, got their money right and bought this land. So the founding families have actually started development on the property, and they are building, of course, their homes first, and then they're going to build other homes that other people can rent or purchase. And they're also going to have a school, tons of municipal buildings. It's going to be a town. They're restoring a town. It's a black town. And even when this story was just starting to gain some traction, there were people, black people, there were people who really thought that this was silly, who thought that this didn't make sense, who said, well, it would just be easier for them to just buy up a bunch of houses in an already established neighborhood. Yes, it would be easier, but guess what? That neighborhood wouldn't belong to them. They wouldn't truly have any real equitable ownership in that neighborhood, in that city, in that town. And what I want black people to be more focused on is giving ourselves equity. Not equality. Equality is not what y'all think it is. Equality is not what y'all want. Equity, equitable land ownership, equitable economics is what we truly need to be demanding and fighting for and calling into our lives. So Ari and Moneybagg Yo are just a extreme example of what that looks like, right? of gifting each other land in this way. First of all, y'all have no idea what Moneybagg Yo has purchased for Ari. Also, I like to follow paper trails. Ari already owns land. Ari been owned land before Moneybagg Yo. So for y'all calling her silly, that don't make no sense. And here's the thing. You either are going to build or you're not. If you are in a relationship, let's break it down. Let's really talk about this black love that y'all say y'all love so much. All of this black power. Ooh. All right. So let's talk about it. If you are really going to be in a relationship with somebody in this way, if you all have decided we are going to move forward in the way that makes the most sense to us, whether that is marriage, whether it is domestic partnership, whether it is common law marriage, whether it's staying boyfriend and girlfriend for 40, 50 years, I don't care. Whatever that looks like for you all, as long as it's a healthy, happy, loving, and safe and equitable relationship, cool, great, I love it too. But when you decide that you're going to do that, you either are going to build or you're not. How long are we going to be comfortable just renting houses and just taking whatever has already been set on the land for people? Not for us, for people. When the planet is so vast and there's so much land. Because if y'all, know history, something that the African has always done very well is architecture and agriculture. It's something we've always done very, very well. And I do think it's high time that we return back to those roots. Let me tell y'all something. Bill Gates owns more farmland in America than any other person. Not to be an extremist or anything, but say what happens if our infrastructure is totally collapsing? And there are delays on farmed goods. Yikes. And we need to sort of ramp up production. Who gets to be in control of that? Bill Gates. But see, y'all are not focusing on that. What y'all are focusing on are quote unquote celebrities and influencers who you think are doing silly things or squandering their money, when actually they're doing the wisest thing that people in their financial positions could be doing at this time, which is buying land, especially land that can be farmed. Like, what are y'all not understanding about the wealth inequality of Black Americans and everybody else? What are y'all not understanding? That wealth gap is huge. And I feel like the best thing that a person can do when they find themselves in financial situations such as Moneybagg Yo and Ari is not to buy more cars, is not to get more flashy things, is to make sure that you and for generations to come have somewhere to live and grow food. So that regardless of what is happening in the government, whatever's happening outside of your community, you don't have to depend on anything else. Because y'all said we got some land, we can put some chickens out here, we can get a horse, we can get some cows, we can get some pigs, we could be vegan, we can do whatever we want to do. We have the land. Rick Ross farms on his land. Rick Ross has an estate. And I think that's wise. I think that's very wise. Rick Ross took his money and has invested in over 500 companies, most of them being Black owned. What y'all don't realize is a lot of times when you see, I'm probably going to do a video on Rick Ross and his investments and what he is doing for the Black community with his wealth. Y'all love to say that some of these rappers and singers and people aren't supporting our communities. No, sweetheart. Just say that you're not doing the research. Because y'all would also come from Beyonce too and say Beyonce and Jay-Z don't do enough. No, sweetheart. You don't do the research. Because can I tell you something? I have directly benefited from Beyonce and Jay-Z's philanthropy. I am a trained figure skater because of Beyonce and Jay-Z's philanthropy. I was kept warm when it was freezing learning how to figure skate in New York City for years because of Beyonce and Jay-Z's philanthropy. I directly benefited from their philanthropy. So stop it. And no, I'm not saying because I benefited from their philanthropy, it doesn't mean that their financial politics are the best. I, again, told y'all, I am not the channel for choosing sides. I don't think. One, the way that I think, I just don't think in these extreme binaries. I don't really see the place for them. Life is much more nuanced than that. And y'all don't like to have the conversations about everything else that is working. So y'all just want to be like, this is right, this is wrong. There are very few things, if we're going to be honest, that are truly just right and wrong. Life is more nuanced than that. But back to my point. People are starting to, and let me be more specific, wealthy Black people are starting to wake up and realize the greatest assets of all is our land ownership and housing. And that no matter how many cars and things you own, you buy and you own and you lease and you rent, one day, praise be to God, you will be 75, 85, 65, 50, 40. Just the point is, what Ari and Moneybagg Yo are doing now to make themselves money they cannot do forever. Like, when's the last time you seen Jay-Z go on tour? He goes on tour with Beyonce. He goes on tour with Beyonce. And even Beyonce knows what she does, she cannot do forever. And she will not do forever. She will gradually pull back and pull back and pull back until Beyonce has given us, a song or two every now and then. And we are honoring sis for her 40 years in the industry. You get what I'm saying? So you have to think, what will I do then? Beyonce got a bee farm. Beyonce is capitalizing off the Bay High. Beyonce said, I own farmland because that is the greatest asset of all. Land ownership. You could buy a house all you want. Do you own the plot of land on which your house sits? No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. Own the land on which your house sits, not just the house. Because they can snatch that from right up under you. Own the land. Get the deed. Own the land. I think we should all work towards purchasing some land when we are in the financial standing to do so. Because buying land also isn't as expensive as y'all think it is. Nobody said you had to have 28 acres. Nobody said you had to have 10 acres. You can get 1 acre, 2 acres. Just get yourself a little something. That that, hey, listen, no matter what else is going on out here in this world, I can go to my land and make home. That's what's important. Wealth is, it's not only a question of financial savings. It provides access to the political process and therefore exerts political influence. Y'all are not thinking deeply enough about the importance of Moneybagg Yo and Ari displaying this sort of political savviness. See, y'all think that all these influencers and rappers are dummies. I'm actually very grateful that Ari and Moneybagg Yo were so gracious enough to share with us the fact that they had purchased this land. Because they didn't have to. You know what I'm saying? Recently, Cardi B was gifted a house in the Dominican Republic, right, by Offset for her birthday. But prior to this, and I'm talking about 3 years ago, Cardi B and Offset purchased a lot of land in Georgia, an amount that we do not know because they did not disclose it. But there are, the sale of land is public record. Every single detail of it doesn't have to be, but the sale of land is public record. So you can go to your Googling, you can do your research. They have owned land for quite some time. Not only the land that their home sits on, but just extra land. They've built additional homes for their family, and then they just have more land. Because at the end of the day, what is most important is the land. It's being able to say, and especially if 2020 has taught us anything, being able to say, this is mine. You cannot take it from me. There's nothing you can do to take this from me. I own this. This is my land. I know this land like the back of my hand. I know what grows here. I know what doesn't grow here. I know what animals are here. I know what animals are not here. I know where is the best place to hide. I know where the best place is to build. This is my land. There is a political influence that comes with owning land. Households with wealth have a measure of economic security and can donate time and money, thereby influencing the political process and the policies that are important to their communities. I don't know what Moneybagg, Yo, and Ari plan to do with this land. I don't know if they plan to only use it for personal development. I don't know if they plan to only build on it for themselves, but they have enough land there to do many of things. They could build a community of homes. They could do whatever they want to do. But the thing is, they have now bought themselves a seat at a political table that many of us should be thinking about too. The persistent black-white wealth gap is not an accident, but rather the result of centuries of federal and state policies that has systemically facilitated the deprivation of Black Americans. From the brutal exploitation of Africans during slavery to systemic oppression in the Jim Crow South, to today's institutionalized racism apparent in disparate access to and outcomes in education, healthcare, jobs, housing, and criminal justice. Government policy has created or maintained hurdles for African Americans who attempt to build, maintain, and pass on wealth. Build, maintain, and pass on wealth. Do you know how much work it takes to build, maintain, and pass on wealth? It is not easy. But one almost surefire way to pass on wealth is to be able to pass on ownership to property and land. Because let me tell you something. As long as a person, as the old folks say, has a pot to piss in, they can make something of themselves. They can do something. Families, and I'm talking about all kind of families, white, Black, Asian, Latino, all type of families. Families have lost all of their financial wealth, right? Have lost all of their money, whatever, the company implodes, who knows, woo. Families have been, completely financially decimated. And they were able to regroup and get themselves together and start anew because although they didn't have money, they had a home. Right? They weren't renting. They owned the home. There was no mortgage. They owned the home. They had the land. They said, okay, all right. Okay, listen, look. All our money might be gone. Our business might be in the toilet. We're not earning. Whatever's in the bank account, that's all we got. There's nothing, there's no new money coming in until we figure out a new game plan. But we're able to figure out a new game plan because we can go to bed, we can put on our blankets, we can pee, we can wash our behinds, and we can cook whatever food we have left, and we can grow some more because we have land. And we have a home that nobody can take from us. There is a security that comes with that is invaluable. Invaluable. You mean to tell me that y'all gonna call somebody silly for giving themselves that and giving their partner that? Are you mad? Are you mad? Are you mad? That is ridiculous. Wealth is crucial for households' economic security, their economic opportunities, their protection against economic crises, and their access to political power. I'm going to say it again. Their protection against economic crises. If 2020 has taught us anything, it is that the government will do what it must to protect itself and its players. Not you, sweetheart. Not you. Not us. We have to do that. Ari said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to protect my investment. I'm going to protect my investment. Because with all this BS going on in the world, this is my partner and I have a child. And maybe she and Moneybagg are planning to start their family of their own. Or maybe they not. But at the end of the day, sis said, I'm going to protect my investment. I'm going to make sure that I am protected against any economic crisis. Whatever happens in 2022, 2023, 2045, 2062, this land I have rights to. Because y'all are silly if y'all think that she didn't give herself rights to that land. Y'all must be mad. She is no silly little girl. And she also already owns land outside of Moneybagg Yo. But anyway, she's protecting her asset, and she's making sure that her children and his children and possibly their children and so on and so forth will always be protected against any economic crises. The large and persistent black-white wealth gap follows from centuries of policies that have systemically disadvantaged Black Americans' abilities to build, maintain, and pass on wealth. Ari has, through many a circumstance, right? And one thing about Ari that I appreciate, I'm not getting into all the other little politics, all the little beefs, all the little whatever. And if y'all start leaving comments about that, you have missed the point entirely. One thing I wish you would do is stop focusing on that doesn't matter. Stop that. Just take what you will from this example and get the lesson. I don't care what Ari tweeted to who and what beef she's in. Baby, that doesn't matter. She's teaching us something here very important, and you're more worried about her beef with whoever. Come on. What are you focusing on? What are you focusing on? Can we please look at what the last 3 years have taught us? We need to pay attention to that which is of importance to us. Please. Got me riled up. So, when we know that there are systems have been put in place to work against us, you have to do what you have to do to protect yourself. Ari has found herself in an amazing financial situation through a lot of circumstance. And Ari herself, which I said and was saying earlier that I appreciate, Ari herself has even said, listen, a lot of my financial success has come through pure circumstance. And I think Ari is right for also being like, I'm tired of being called like a baby mother. I'm tired of being told like all my wealth is because of who I had a child with. Yes, of course. I've gained more notoriety and more wealth because of who I had a child with. But Ari's ability to sustain that wealth and grow that wealth has nothing to do with the father of her child at all. It has nothing to do with him anymore now. And y'all also have to learn to stop doing that to women. Oh my God, please. Ugh. Why do y'all keep doing this to women? I don't care if she's a baby mother or whatever. I don't know if I even want to broach this conversation, but maybe I will one day. This whole she's a baby mama conversation. So women who are baby mamas, we should hold, in less regard or whatever. Y'all are weird. I don't care. Y'all are strange. Because y'all are not giving Kylie that energy. I don't really see people publicly really giving Raven Elise that energy. That's because y'all will accept a baby mother depending on the packaging in which she comes in. And that's not right. A woman who has a child with a man who decides that he doesn't want to be in the picture anymore is a woman who is doing what she must for her child. And for y'all to think that people who have children with men who then decide they don't want to be in the picture anymore are of any less value. I'm not going to say you're of any less value for thinking that, but I am going to say that's weird. I am going to say that's really weird. And I think until we find ourselves in a state where policy interventions focus on reversing centuries of exploitation and discrimination against Black Americans, we are going to have to take lessons from people such as Ari and Moneybagg Yo, who purchased wealth. Purchasing land is purchasing wealth. Thank you, God. I said what I said. Who purchased wealth. We're going to have to take these lessons and do what we can with them. You know, if you're really paying attention, a lot of people with wealth or with enough money to do so are buying land and building home. And y'all, if you can just get $10,000 together, and again, please understand me, like, I am not a talented 10th Black who is like, y'all need to just, save $10,000 and do this and do that. Or you need to just put $20,000 to the side. I know that the vast majority of Black Americans cannot put that kind of money aside because you have to earn more money to prioritize more money towards a goal. How you gonna save $20,000 if you don't make $20,000? You know what I'm saying? Like, I get that. I get. I understand that. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is y'all gotta start checking your privileges. You got to sit down and look at your privileges and figure out what can I do with the privileges that I have been afforded. Black people for a long time, we've been acting like we ain't got no privileges over here in these America's streets. And I don't accept that. I don't believe that. I'm not saying that everything that is true is not true. What I am saying is you're not about to sit here with an iPhone and a MacBook Pro and housing and running water and food stamps and say you ain't got no privilege. That's a load of hot garbage. Like, you got mad privilege, bruh. And I'm gonna need you to figure out how to leverage your privilege. One thing that I am working on right now is leveraging my privileges more. Yes, I'm a Black woman. Yes, I'm a dark-skinned Black woman. Yes, I'm a dark-skinned Black woman with short hair. Yes, I'm a dark-skinned Black woman with a big nose, with a big butt, and big lips. Like, yes, I am the dark-skinned Black woman that y'all hate the most. Yes, I am. I know I am. I've done the study, right? I didn't decide to go to Spelman College for fun. I wanted to do the study, and I wanted to do the study with the women who have been doing the study before me. Right? Okay. So I know what y'all like and don't like. I know what y'all claim to like but don't like, for real. And I know that I am in a package that is not well received and is often fetishized and demonized all at the same time. Isn't that crazy? I took a picture of myself standing up straight, feet flat. I took a side profile picture of myself. And y'all know that infamous picture of Shajarti Bartman. Or you might know her as Sarah Bartman, who was paraded around the world because of her body type. And I took this side profile of myself. And I looked at myself and I said, oh my God. If we were to put those two pictures side by side, my body is very similar. It's not the same because I'm not as wide and don't have as large of a belly, but it's all there, right? The butt is high, right? It protrudes out. It's high. It kind of turns up a little bit, right? The thighs come out very far. She had this forward curvature to her thighs that I have too. That if you look at a person's side profile, it's actually not that common. People's thighs are, when they're thick or whatever, their thighs are usually very big, but they don't have this like outward curvature. But in that outward curvature actually exaggerates the size of your butt. It'll make you look like your butt is even bigger than it is, but it also kind of makes your back upturn. It's just about the ligaments. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about it later. But the point is, I saw myself and I kind of got emotional about it because I was realizing, damn, they used to really parade a body like mine around the world to be poked and prodded at and laughed at and ridiculed. And then they made bustles. White women had the goddamn nerve to make bustles and put them on their dresses to make them look like they had these big protruding butts and these forward curvatures to the thigh. Isn't that something? So I'm saying all that to say, that tangent, to just kind of remind y'all of, like, we are not removed from that yet like we think we are. And it is going to be us that is going to have to address this wealth gap. You know, in 2019, the median wealth, and this is without defined benefit and pensions, of black households in the United States was $24,000, compared with $189,000 for white households. So we're talking about $24,000, and then six figures, $189,000 for the average median income for a white household. So that means the typical black household had 12.7% of the wealth of a typical white household. And then they owned $165,000 less in wealth. The average gap is somewhat smaller in relative terms, but much larger in dollar terms. The average black household had $142,000 in 2019, compared with $980,000 for the average white household. So that's about $142,000 to damn near $1 million for the average white household. So that means on average, black households had 14.5% of the wealth of white households, with an absolute dollar gap of $838,000. The massive black wealth white disparity is nothing new in this country. It has persisted for centuries and has been apparent in consistent nationally representative data for at least 3 decades. The gap between black and white households appears to have widened again in the later part of 2020 as the Panera Bread and deep recession took hold, especially hurting black Americans. Black households needed to rely more on their savings to cover both healthcare emergencies and the economic fallout from layoffs than white households. So that means white households were still able to generate an income, so they did not have to rely so heavily on money that they had been saving or prioritizing for other things. Black households did not have that luxury because they weren't able to generate as many incomes. If y'all don't know, when recessions happen, black folks are the first to lose their jobs. Black folks are the first to lose their jobs. And don't think those jobs go unfulfilled. Oh, no. White people get placed right in them. That there's data on this. So, yeah. Just a few months into the Panera Bread, average wealth for black households was growing more slowly than that of white households, a reversal of the pre-Panera Bread trend. White households were actually starting to earn more than they had in the previous years during the Panera Bread. You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious? So, low wealth among many black Americans left them especially vulnerable to the myriad of risk of the Panera Bread crisis. Black workers were more likely to lose their jobs, even as they faced greater healthcare risk. They worked in jobs with greater exposure of the Panera Bread and lived in communities with weaker healthcare infrastructures. As risk and costs soared, they quickly experienced more material hardship, hunger, the threat of eviction and foreclosure, and an inability to pay bills were more prevalent among black households than among white ones. More than 2/3, 68.1% of black families with incomes from $35,000 to $100,000 who had lost work during the Panera Bread indicated that they could not afford all of the food they needed. Listen to me. There were black people, black families, black households who had incomes upwards to $100,000. who reported they could not afford all of the food that they needed, faced eviction or foreclosure, or had difficulty paying all of their bills from August 2020 to December 2020. These situations applied to 49.3% of white households in that income strategy. All types of families have suffered during this recession, but Black families have struggled more because they have fewer savings to fall back on and less wealth ownership. Do you see where I'm going now? Do you understand how imperative it is that we start to think a little bit more about group economics? I really want you guys to watch that video of mine called The Great Return. It's really well done. It's really well researched. And it focuses more so on the group economics. There was a time where Black folks could throw a rent party and your community would show out for you and give you $1.50, whatever they could give, so you could afford rent. I was having a conversation and I said, what's so upsetting and disappointing and sad about today is if somebody threw a rent party, the timeline would drag them. No questions asked. The timeline would drag them. They would laugh. There'd be a meme. There'd be all types of shit. Y'all frying fish for rent? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am, because my skill set is that I can cook. My need is that I need money to pay for rent. And my desire is to have my community wrap its arms around me and support me during this low time. But that's not how y'all are thinking. It's not how y'all are thinking. It's not how y'all are thinking. It's just really not how y'all are thinking. The financial system strips Black households of their wealth by denying them access to the same investment opportunities and affordable credit that white households have. This systemic bias makes it more difficult for Black households to participate in the stock market, to start and grow their own businesses, and to put away a rainy day fund while they carry more costly debt such as car loans, credit card balances, and payday loans at the same time. Black households also continue to face housing market discrimination, which makes it harder for them to own a home in the first place. And their houses appreciate less value than those of white households. Let me tell y'all something. When you do the math, sweetheart, usually it's cheaper for you to buy land and to build a house on the land that you own than it is for you to buy a house on land that you don't own. Yes, I know. Nobody's really had that conversation, but sweetheart, that is the truth. Now, of course, it matters on where you are building your home, what state and city you are doing it in. I'm a huge advocate for I'm a huge advocate for Black people doing this would really be our fifth migration. I am a huge advocate for Black people migrating again, and let's going further south and further into the Midwest. I think we do better there. I think the climate agrees with us more. And I'm a northerner, but my family is from the South. So I do think that we would benefit greatly from going to these spaces and purchasing land, not property, land. Buy land, build property. I think that is the ticket. I think that's the key. I think that's what we need to be doing. Following centuries of oppression of Black households, white households are much more likely to receive an inheritance from their parents and grandparents, and their inheritances are much larger than those of Black households. Moreover, white households have access to larger and wealthier social networks so that they can tap into for jobs and career opportunities for them and their children. Addressing the persistent Black-white wealth gap means countering these century-old institutions that have kept Black households from building and growing wealth at the same rate as is the case for white households. Moneybagg and Ari have ensured that their children and that their peoples will have an inheritance, will have land. Not to go too deep into my personal business, but as a young Black American, knowing that there is an inheritance, I feel much more secure in the choices that I make throughout my life. Knowing that you will have an inheritance, I think contrary to popular belief, it doesn't really make you lazy. Now, maybe it depends on the kind of inheritance you had. Because I guess if I knew I had a $35 million inheritance, maybe I'll move a little different. But I ain't that much. But what I will say is it does make you, for at least me, it makes me much more willing to actually try to generate an income through non-conventional ways. And it just makes me a little more secure in those choices because I see the value in it. I also understand that the reason why even my great-grandmother was able to leave an inheritance to her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren is because she and my great-grandfather had to believe in themselves and that they could make money through more unconventional means. And they did it and they achieved. And I think for me being like, okay, the only reason that inheritance even existed is because that's how the money was made. I think Black people need to work towards, especially those of us in these positions. And those positions, again, I've been stressing those financial positions, but honestly, just those privileged positions. Y'all, come on now. Like, you got like, if you have an iPhone and a MacBook, babes, you got like 2 computers right now. You can do some research. You can figure some stuff out. You can leverage your privilege. Okay? Like, you can leverage your privilege. I just really hope you guys have learned something from this video. And I hope that we check ourselves and our own insecurities and ask ourselves, why am I being made to feel uncomfortable when I see somebody actually buying back the block? What is it about that makes you even fix your fingers to say, this is silly because y'all are not married yet? Y'all are not this, y'all are not that. Why does that matter? Why? Why does that matter so deeply to you? Why is that so important to you? What would Moneybagg Yo and Ari being married? The land don't care if they're married or not. The dirt does not care if that is her husband. Like, it doesn't. The dirt didn't care when she bought land for herself as a single woman. The dirt does not care. It doesn't. That's not important to the dirt. But anyway, y'all, please stop capping, all right? Either we're going to build or we're not, and you're going to support or you're not. I'm going to support, though, and I have every intention to and am building.